In the heart of a powerful photography company, executives believed film would rule forever. Around them, cameras and film rolls looked like symbols of permanent success. Then a young engineer entered the boardroom with a strange invention, a camera that did not need film. To him, it was the future. On the laboratory table, the prototype looked rough, almost unfinished. But inside that tiny device was an idea that could change photography forever. The executives studied the invention with cold faces. They saw risk, confusion, and uncertainty, not opportunity. The engineer pointed to a pixelated image on the screen. It was imperfect, but it proved something revolutionary. Pictures could become digital information. The CEO crossed his arms and rejected the idea. Film was profitable, familiar, and safe. A digital camera seemed unnecessary, even dangerous. The engineer left the room disappointed, carrying the prototype alone. His invention had been dismissed, but the idea itself was not dead. Meanwhile, the factories kept producing film at full speed. Thousands of rolls moved down the lines as if demand would never disappear. Customers were still buying film cameras with confidence. Stores were busy, shelves were full, and almost nobody could see the disruption approaching. But elsewhere, a competitor was quietly building digital devices in a small lab. They had seen the same idea and they chose to pursue it. Over time, the old world began to shrink. Film rolls faded from the center, while screens, sensors, and digital images grew larger every year. Families discovered the simplicity of digital photography. They could take a picture, see it instantly, and share the moment without waiting for film. Back in the boardroom, executives still celebrated film profits. The numbers looked strong, so they mistook short-term success for long-term safety. Then the warnings began to pile up. Sales reports, market alerts, and customer trends all pointed in the same direction. The world was moving on. Once busy film stores started closing. Empty shelves replaced old displays, and the products that once defined photography became harder to sell. Customers walked past the film store without stopping. Their attention had shifted to glowing screens, instant previews, and digital possibilities. In modern electronics stores, digital cameras took center stage. Bright displays, sleek devices, and instant images made photography feel new again. The old company office slowly became emptier. Boxes replaced desks, departments disappeared, and the confidence of the past turned into silence. Executives stared at a falling sales chart, unable to ignore the decline. What once looked like a temporary problem had become a collapse. The engineer watched competitors succeed with the idea he had once presented. The same vision that was rejected now powered another company's growth. Warehouses were filled with unsold film rolls. What had once been a profitable inventory became a symbol of denial, delay, and missed timing. Panic spread through the boardroom. Executives argued over strategy, blame, and survival, but the market had already made its decision. The decline became public. Newspapers showed the company's fall, while the story behind it was simple. They had ignored their own invention. It was more than a product failing, it was an entire business model breaking apart, a lack of vision of the future. The contrast was brutal, one object from the past, enclosed by an expanding digital world surrounded by digital screens. The former CEO understood his huge mistake holding a film camera. What once represented profits now looked like a reminder of a future he refused to see. Competitors celebrated digital success. Their growth was not magic, it came from accepting uncertainty while others defended the comfort of the past. The old company sign was removed from the building. A name that once dominated photography became another symbol of a missed transition. Everywhere, amateur and professional photographers began choosing digital over film. Not because film had no beauty, but because digital offered speed, flexibility, and control. The film development laboratory were abandoned. Dust covered the machines that had once turned invisible images into memories. The process had become history. The ignored invention grew into a giant digital wave. What started as a small prototype became a force too powerful for the old company to stop. Years later, the engineer placed the prototype inside a display case. The rejected device had become an artifact of technological change. The choice had always been there, but only some were willing to take it. We must accept that nothing is more stable than change. Once the dominant company in the photography market, announced in 2025 its doubts about its financial survival. This was not just the story of photography, it was the story of every industry facing change and technology evolution.